entire screen. No, that's not what I want. I want to start. What we're going to start on today, it was the entrepreneur thing first. That's right. I'll start with the funny thing. This is funny. I thought I'd just get it from through the week because it was my professor. Look at the teacher in the bottom right-hand corner. He wasn't digging out the facts on this day. And I thought, you're kidding. I thought, wowee, that's just full on. I've got to try and somehow get a shot of that. So I did. So yeah, that's something funny. Thought I'd share. Now the entrepreneur thing. So there's so many opportunities for entrepreneurship with cannabis, and you guys already are probably most of the users. So you have way more experience than the people who are trying to get education. So you already have a step ahead of the rest. And this is an example. So you can make a periodic table, for instance, and then just put all your different strains in here. And then this person has just done it, and he's put all of his different strains and abbreviated it. And in the top corner, there's a % on what it's supposed to be and a little bit of their effects. So you could just go and do that and see on the right-hand corner, left-hand corner, sorry, this is where it says it all. Just a little tiny thing in the corner. It says all these different things. So you can go and just do one up, bang, whack it out and sell it. Another cool thing was this. I thought, wow, that's a nice looking bud. So I looked into it harder, and it's not a bud. It's a bloody crocheted bud. So it is a bud, but it's a crocheted bud. I thought, wow, that's pretty flash. So if you're handy with knitting and things like that, there's these tools that people need to show people for, and they like to have them in the background. And this stuff isn't really available. So it's just another thing. And come back to that. This is rhododendron flowers, and this strain, it's called rhododendron gonadoids. So like, geez, yes. So it's this, the genus and the species. So if you get this right, one, especially the athropogonoids, it produces 3 cannabinoids. So it produces CBC, CBL, and CBT. And I don't know the last two, but they will definitely have their health benefits, and I'll talk about them soon. So yeah, and you're allowed to extract that because that's under hemp. It's not under the psychoactive, which is the THC bit. So you can legally do that, even in Australia. Yes, which is so full on, you can't do shit here. All right, now into the medicinal side of it. So Zimbabwe is even starting to change. So Africa is going to be ahead of Australia soon with their laws. Good on them. But at least they're going to, because everyone's recognised this is medicinal. There's so much benefits from it, and then it's starting to give legalities and open the doors. Yeah, fucking wake up, Australia. I've got this in again because this is to show the relationship between pain and cannabinoids, THC, CBD, and it's got all the pain down there. I'm just going to briefly go because I went through it the other week. That's down the bottom there, and on the side here is what they've tested against the effects. So I'm only interested in the top two, pain relief and quality of life. So go over here. So pain relief's top, orange, quality of life. So THC says smoking cannabis to get pain relief. Look at the difference between all these others. They don't even really exist. GABAs, tremor, IB, bloody waste of hurting stomachs. With all of it. Anyway, so yes, cannabinoids are very good. This is something I like. This is from back in the day from the American Medical Association. When it was legal. So did you know that it was legal right up until 1930, I think, like that, or mid-30s, early war, Second World War, that you could have it. You can get it from the chemists and the pharmacies and the doctors because it was recognised as a plant that works. It's constituents. And then they went and outlawed it because of Anslinger and all the alcohol and shit like that. And yeah, now we're just finally getting back over all of that crap over the last 100 years, and now it's been recognised again. Well, in most other places, not Australia. They're trying to make more money off it first. So I'm just telling it how it is Australia. you try and put on the news on it's really good and all that sort of stuff, and people in the States always ask me on, oh wow, these are doing so well medicinally and heaps of people signing up. Yeah, but they're robbing us blindly. And anyway, back to the goodness. And this is Switzerland's even doing it now. They've got a pilot program called the Cannabis THC Cannabis Pilot Program, which is going to start in the next few weeks. And it's testing many different avenues to go recreational and the different effects that it has with cannabis, because Switzerland stated that they want to be world leaders. So they're finally trying to change their laws and trying to recognize this as a good medicine and doing the right thing about it. Congratulations, Switzerland and Europe. Smoking cannabis is now more popular than smoking tobacco inside the US. There you go. But Australia can't make money out of it, so no, we can't do it here. Geez, I've got a negative attitude today. I'm sorry. I just get pissed off with it. Living in North America for 5 years, having freedom with this and everybody recognize it, knowing it, you come to Australia and, oh, wow, what? That's a demon drug and all this sort of shit because it's just being portrayed like that. There's so much goodness. Germany makes moves to go recreational. Well done, Germany. Yes, congratulations. You'll be right up there with world leaders as well, making heaps of money with all your scientists and stuff like that, with all your technology and all your discoveries that you can do, because there's so much opportunity, but the law permits in certain countries. This is a cool little chart, detailed chart of the cannabinoids effects with your different conditions. So as we get older, we all realize we've got something wrong. There's mine, epilepsy. So you go on the outside, you see what you have, sleep apnea, cancer, all different types of ones there's there. Then you go and what can treat it. So you go to the cannabinoid chart in the middle. So me, epilepsy, I need CBD, CBN, and THC. And that's supposed to alleviate epilepsy and seizures. And it does. It slows the neurons down so I can think. Otherwise, if I have like a sativa version of THC, I'm firing and I'm off my head and that sort of stuff. I'm just really buzzing and it makes my neurons speed up because I've got caffeine sensitivity as well. So I like the indica versions to control me. And geez, it works. Very little side effects. Anyway, this is in the middle chart in the middle here, in the pie in the middle. It's the different types of what happens. So it's neurological effects from these, your moods from here, your gastro, your pain, and your others. So on that chart with CBG before or CBC, you can go, all right, well, for them, it is good for CBC. So for muscular dystrophy, you can go to that plant and get your CBC out of your rhododendron arthropogonosides. Sorry, I'm bad at English. And if you don't have any cannabis available, because cannabinoids work. You don't just have to get them from the cannabis plant. Remember, I went through a few weeks ago about different other plants that have different cannabinoids in them. So if you don't have access to cannabinoids from medical cannabis, you can still get your relief. This is a chart to show the properties of the cannabinoids and their boiling points. So I've put this in. This is for extraction. You're not allowed to do that in Australia. So I'm not putting. That's why it's in Fahrenheit, not in Celsius. So for everyone else in the world, sorry, Australia. Yeah, bloody laws, isn't it? Oh well. So you've got to decarb it first. So to remove the acid molecule to turn it into the psychoactive and the one that's going to work for you, you have to go in between these ranges. So between THCA is 140 to 257, and then it'll turn into the one that you want. This is a little bit of how you can treat it and what it does for you on the different things. I'm going to go into the boiling points and things I might do that next week, and then talk in Celsius about the effects from when you're vaporizing to unlock each cannabinoid. Because if you want CBN, you can go. I'll talk about that in another week. I think that's about it, guys. I hope you've got some questions. I haven't said hello to anybody. Oh no, here we go. Could dietary intake of omega-3 and 6 enhance the effects of phytocannabinoids? Yes. Isn't that a real? We've got to call them phytocannabinoids because the government's labelled cannabinoids as synthetic ones. So yeah. So plant-derived cannabinoids is phyto. So can they enhance the effects of this fish oil? So it's cool. So does it do the CB1 receptor? That's from your THC, CB1, CB2, and your TPRV are from CBD. I'll tell you a little hint how I remember that, because you're going, how these fucking bullshit. All right, I remember this. This is called Total Real Pain version 1. So that's the receptor for CBD. That's one of them. There's a version 2 as well. But anyway, that's that. Oh, and I just found this very funny, because I'm actually going through a bit of cannabis licensing at the moment in Australia, and this is exactly what it's like. So if you've got money, you're over at this fella and can just stroll and casually walk around and whatever, just pay people, and pay the right people too, because anyway, I'm not going to say anything about that. Or if you're someone like me, yeah, you got the chain on, you got razor wire, Crocs, fences, steeple things, you know, it's, in other words, good luck. And this is the reason why these people who they're probably not even plant scientists, you could sort of say. They're just going into the industry because they want to make money. They don't want to help people with health, like me and probably a lot of other people on this side. More into it for that reasons. So it's just a shame anyway. I know I should move countries, but I tried. I think that's it, guys. Been through everything. All right, I'm going to say hello, see if anyone's here. All right, g'day. Got 14 people, nice. So I'll go up and say g'day to everybody. Say hello to a few already. Fratel, Bugey and the Beast, Aussie Grow Show, Jeff Papella. Any questions? I'll skim through to see if there's any questions here too. Grass contains CBD. A lot of plants do. You don't want to watch me. There you go. Grass contains CBD. A lot of plants. Oh, nice one. Bugey and the Beast. Terence down under. Here you go. Steady chat. G'day. What's abusing your government? Nexus. Here you go. Nexus. I should put a link in next to Nexus. Invites. How do we do this? Invites. Actually, I'll talk about, copied. I'll put this link in. I'm going to tell you about American one. Here you go, mate. You'll be interested in this soil stuff. I'm going to tell you a bit about soil health. Everyone talks about plant health. What about soil or substrate health? That's extremely important. There's a few cool indicators that you can use to use for that, to do for it. I'm trying to get my sugar leaf to turn to CBG. Okay, that's cool. Good luck, mate. When you vaping on Nexus, CBG is the mother of all cannabinoids, but is generally found in lower levels. Yes, it is. Nexus. It's called the cannabinoid family tree, and it all starts with CBG, and then it goes off from that. Here you go. I'll put this in there, Mr. Nexus. Buttercup. Here you go, Buttercup. Ready to hit off fire. G'day, mate. There you go, up there in the land of lovely Canada. We shouldn't change governments, mate. Yeah, good luck. All right, I'm down the bottom. Cheers, g'day. Sunshine sour fermented fruit juice, brown sugar. Okay, that's good. All right, I'm going to show some. There wasn't any questions. Oh, which sativa did 14 gems? Oh, which sativate? Oh, sativate. Oh, wow. That's the government sativa-derived oil called sativate. Yes. So if you've used sativate and you get heart palpitations or anything like that, that means you're caffeine sensitive like me, and you need the indica version of the hemp, which is available, and that's the stuff that I use. All right, I'm going to share this stuff about soil health now. And if you got any questions, oh, there's American one. He said, so will harvesting early be more CBG rich? I've heard that it's CBD rich. If there was a hemp farmer, here's a cool story. He was actually the mayor of, what's that place I used to live near? Kootenay, the mayor of Kootenay there in BC, in Canada. And he had some hemp farms, and he was legally growing it, of course, and he picked it too late once, and it brought up the THC profile, so it stuffed his whole crop, and he couldn't sell it. And then that happened again, and that was enough to put him out of business. So I'm not sure about the CBG, if it does anything for that, but I've heard it for the CBD. You want to be an early harvester, like Bugie says. CBD is early, CBN late. Yes, THC derives and changes into CBN, after a while. It's cool too. The CBN has a different effect too. You can age your cannabis by doing that. So if it's really stored well and dried well, you can store it, and it can age to change from. It probably takes about 3-4 months, and then it'll change from THC into CBN, and it gives you a whole different high. I really like that for sleeping on. It really helps a lot. Thanks for your question, mate. All right, I'll share some of this stuff for just as Mr. Nexus comes in. G'day, Nexus. I'm going to share the Newton Nexus. Yeah. I'm going to share the screen for the soil and just run through a few. There's some really cool things I've learned in soil science lately. Hang on, this one. So soil indicators. So for your soil health, your indicators, your macronutrients, your micronutrients, your physical conditions. They might be stuff like the color, the size of the clay, your clay part, your colloidal particles, your particles of soil. Actually, did you know that if it's greater than 21 mil, 21 mil, that inside of it, there's a high chance that it has gone anaerobic. That is stratified layers of different, where the air can penetrate, and it doesn't actually get to the center. So if you've got soil particles bigger than, I don't know, an inch or half an inch at least, it's 12, 15 centimeters. Yeah, there's a high chance that might happen, especially if they're clay. So that's something in the physical. Biological health is if it's biology, how much movement you have in there, microbes, fungi, all that sort of stuff. Did you know too that you want all sorts of predators, and you want pathogens to have good, proper soil health? You have an even balance of both, and you want stresses. There's a balance of the stresses in there too, to even things out, because otherwise things will just take over if there's too luxury for something. That's why a lot of indoor growers have problems, because they don't use organics or biology, living, biological fertilizers or anything like that, beneficials, and that once something comes in, it takes over. This is the reason why. There's really cool things to look out for. I'm going to skim through quite a few of this stuff here. Functions, micronutrients. I want to get up to a chart. This is the pH chart to show availability. This is why pH is so important. So if someone says, oh, I've got a calcium deficiency, check your pH first, because more than likely it's going to be below 6. So that's why, because it's not available to the plant. So in other words, raise your pH and you come back in the availability stage. Like I run just below 6.5. So I'll run probably 6.3 around that. And I could even get it up to 6.5. But that's just how I've run. So that's why CalMag, everyone says, put CalMag in, because you've made it unavailable to the plant from the pH. It's something else. Soil organic matter is just so important. It's just everything. You need a metal, you need ions to stick to things. Otherwise, they'll be washed out, and they won't become available to the rhizosphere next to the roots in the plants. So by putting in soil organic matter, that allows things to stick to it and chelate. Chela means claw in Latin. That means hold on. So you want things to hold on, the ions to hold on, so they can be transformed around better. Actually, I think there's a good little chart. Yeah. So if there's sitting here, you got your chelate, your nutrient. You got your magnesium, for instance, sitting in the soil. It chelates together. Then it can transport it to the roots, where it can be unlocked there and be made available to the roots, where it's sucked in through the root hairs, and it starts its process, its pathway. This is a good chart to show the different doses that you can. It's about yield. So to get maximum yield, there's a bit of a hidden hunger here in just in over and under. So you can be deficient in under, or over is toxic. So to know that in precision agriculture is a must. The 4 R's, get a load of this. R, hey, Mr. Pirate Head, like Captain Hook out there. You want the 4 R's. It's a simple principle, says Captain Hook. R, hardy, me mate. Far out. Woo, smoke good weed. Right products. So if you want the right products, the right time to put them in, the right place to put them in, and the right rate to apply it. And if you can get the 4 R's right, precision agriculture will just be second nature to you. It's all about, I'm not going to go into detail, fertilizers. This is really good. It's just showing your availability of your nutrients, what you have. Is it available? Do I have it unlocked? Do I need biofertilizers to stimulate and more phosphorus solubilizing bacteria, nitrogen fixing bacteria, sulfate reducing bacteria? Do I need things like that? And yes, just microbes are rad. They unlock everything. Because remember, in the soil, nitrogen is what, 5%. It's availability to the plant. So there's 95 sitting in there. That is nitrogen, but it's not available in the right form for the plant to use. I think I've gone on about too much. Actually, that might do it. I'll stop sharing. See if there's anything in here. Poor old Nexus is sitting there muted. Sorry, Nexus. I'm going to scroll up. Nexus is unmuted again. I'll scroll up and see if there's any questions from that. I think that's about enough for the show today, guys. What do you reckon? I'll just mute Nexus again. You can hear his birds in the background. He's got a really good microphone happening there.
Yeah, I do. It's spraying those birds everywhere.
G'day, mate. There you go. How do you test soil quality, says Aussie Grow Show? Oh, that's a great question. There's quite a few meters you can get for that. It's not a simple process. Let me go back into it. What's an easier way to say it? It's pretty hard. Unless you got, I've actually written that in one of my questions to the professor. What's an affordable, cheap, reliable meter that I can use to test these parameters? You can get ones that's about $600 that do your NPK. What's the other things they do? About moisture. They do a couple of other things for about $600. Then you can get Bunnings ones that do a little bit cheaper, but I think they don't do very good. You can get ones that are for aquariums that are really rad, that are individual, like a nitrate tester, for instance. And for your plants, for instance, nitrogen, it comes in two forms: your nitrate, NO3, and your ammonium, your NH4. So you want to see what that availability is in the soil. Who cares about all the others? Because it's not available to the plant. So when you're testing it, you want to test those individual parameters if you can. Another thing is Munsell's color chart is really rad to see what sort of color you got, to know about the organic matter that you have in your soil, because your organic matter is very important. Remember, I was talking a bit about that before. I'll have to get back to you with that, the testing. Maybe I can go on for that next week, because he might have answered my question. But yeah, that's something that I'm looking into too, because it's something that's very, very important and a must.
Well, in soil testers and things, the good ones will set you back probably $750 to $850. The only one I know of that is really accurate, can't even remember what company makes it. I think it's called Direct Soil. It's a pH measurement kit. You just literally stick a probe in, and it does all the measurements for you. But yeah, they're like
all the macros and micros, or just pH?
Yeah, let's see.
Because there's different the individual tests that you've got to do for the lab test. You've got to add, for instance, you add potassium and then ammonium for doing a cation exchange test. to see the availability in your soil. And you've got to remove that, and there's a few different processes you've got to through, tip it into beakers, tip it out, and then that it binds because of the binding strength of the binding strength of the cations is important. So by tipping in a higher one that's going to bind better, because it goes from the bottom, your SAP MC is your rhyme, so it's sodium, ammonium, potassium, magnesium, calcium, aluminium, protons. That's the order on your bonding strength. The highest is at the top. So anyway, I've gone on about too much about it. But yeah, I'm looking into that to try and get a really good one, because it's so important parameters. The more you know, the more you can work out, and the less you're guessing. And that's what this precision agriculture stuff's all about. Do you have any? Is there anything else, guys? I suppose the soil is not so hard to test, but the microbes and macrobes. Oh yeah, well the soil microbes is easy to test because that goes on soil respiration. So if you've got a CO2 meter, it's pretty hard to test outdoors. To test it outdoors, you have to put put a plastic bag around it with a CO2 meter inside of it, and that's a way to test your soil respiration, which is direct indicator of your soil microbes. I went and used some clay soil a while ago, and it's very high in nutrients, extremely high because of the what's the exchange thing called? Isomorphic substitution it's called, and that's how it substitutes potassium within the silica octahedral layers. And I thought, rad, I'm going to get all the potassium I need, and I did, but it was very low in microbes because I did a soil respiration test and it came out like shit. It was about 450 ppm, and my normal soil respiration tests around 800 ppm on the CO2 meter. That's a way that I test the microbes in the soil. Not so much to think cannabis. Have your compost pile and earthworms integrated in your grow area. Yes, Fratel, that's a rad idea, mate. If you've got, I suggest not inside, because that attracts things to come in there. Like I had white flies, for instance, the other day that I had to get rid of that attracted to inside of the area. So, but I reckon if you've got an air intake, you can put it next to your air intake, and that would really, really help from your compost pile for sure.
Yeah, a micron mesh filter on the air intake is a good idea too. Yeah,
you want to heifer up you have to have that for sure to stop all the spores coming in. Aussie Auto, there you go.
Yeah, mate, I just use one of the spare hemp filter, one of the bubble hash bags. I just wrap it over the intake pipe, the largest one that I don't use. I don't use 150 micron, so I put it over the air intake. That'll stop most of the tiny little shit getting in there.
Oh yeah, that's a way. Or you can get a HEPA filter. It's a high, what's it stand for? High energy. Actually, I can't remember. There you can get ones. I used to get ones that was designed for boxes, and it's to go for an inline box, and it's about sort of $50 for 2 feet by 2 feet, 60 mils by 60 mil. And then I used to cut that up, and then I used to put that over the air intake every probably 2 to 3 weeks, depends on the season and your dust and spore count. But that used to clog up pretty fast. But at least the room when I was over in Canada, that it was fine. It protected it all right. And Bokashi. Bokashi was mentioned before by Aussie Autos. Yes, I use Bokashi too, mate. It's an inoculated wheat mixture which has spores, beneficials, and microbes and fungi on them that are inoculated in it. I wrote away to the company and tried to get their MSDS and their results, their data sheets. They sent me the MSDS because that's not much, but I wanted their test result sheets and I didn't have it because I wanted to see what microbes were inside of that, because I want to proliferate and try and work with those different types of microbes. But it's great for your compost and it improves soil respiration. Yes, good suggestion, Aussie Autos. IPM skizbits for those tiny flies, like the wet soil. Yes, IPM is very important, mate. And with your compost heap, you want to keep it between 60 and 80%. humidity, the moisture, because if it gets below or above that, you'll see the worms will start and vacate, and they'll be everywhere. And then that's a good indication to tell you, look inside it if you don't have any probes. When I have a room, I'll do Johnson. Okay.
Yeah, other people also go to the extreme lengths of putting like ultraviolet light inside their air intakes to sterilize stuff that comes in.
Yes, UVC light is a great idea. I use them.
Don't look at it, kids.
Kids?
Yeah, sorry.
This is
I'm an old fart.
only adults should be watching this show. Sorry, that's why I said that. But he was only joking around.
Well, I am. You got to remember, I'm an old fart, and I see everyone as kids.
Yes, and Dr. Nexus is a professor too.
Yes.
So he's used to saying that to the young crew like you.
Well, two PhDs, 2 daughters, 2 crew, lots of granddaughters. Like, yeah, used to using the word kids a lot.
Yeah, no worries, mate.
It wasn't meant in a derogatory way. It was meant in a loving way.
Yeah, I understand. It's a good time to clarify that we support the law and we support
we do
growing practices and things like that. So if it's not legal in the area, well, do whatever you want. You're an adult, but I don't support that sort of stuff. And this show doesn't support that type of activity. That's why most of the viewers, they're in North America. So it's why I try and, I got to educate other people and help other people out too with their questions. They're not all just in Australia.
Oh, there's Mick. Happy birthday, Mick. Yeah, you got some people here today, which is good. You picked the right time. Yeah, 9:30 was a better time.
Labs work, skip-bix, also drive medium, and also neem cake and silica and diatomaceous earth, and use sand on top. Okay, sounds like he's got a bit of a gnat problem, skizbits. And yeah, de-earth is rad. It puts silica back in. It's so beneficial. That's what I use. Neem cake's very good too for your IPM. It's got it's anti-feedants.
Yeah, neem koya is also very good. They make a koya from neem.
Yeah.
But use it in your mix, but use sparingly.
And with labs, the problem with labs is it's very, very non-symbiotic. It puts out a heavy biofilm, which means in that biofilm, that's good for its exudates. It's not exudates, it comes out of plants. It's what's it called? Quiescensing. That's how microbes communicate. And that's what that is. So that's got heaps of antibiotics in it to piss off other. They want to own that space. So that's why they have the biofilms. And then they can communicate inside that. And just the point sort of being is if it does work, but it's not very symbiotic. That's all.
It does. Yeah. Emily had an interesting question about recommendations on controlling bugs that won't harm the worms. There's a couple that you can use. Yeah, Californicus is one. Lacewind. Depends on what sort of bugs you're trying to control, as to what sort of predators you put in there.
There you go. Emily asked, any recommendations for controlling bugs that won't harm the worms?
Yeah, identify the bugs that are the problem initially. Yeah, go ahead, AussyCC.
Most of the bugs that you got, they don't really harm worms. The worms get diseases and problems like that, and they don't like their conditions. But the bugs in general are mostly beneficial, and even the parasitic ones, they like Bacillus thuringiensis. That's BT for short, it's called. That's how I got rid of my white flies recently. That was in my vermicastings. I put a little higher amount of that in, and puts out a white musculin disease, and then it gets into there, and the fungus sprouts outside of on the predatory insect, and that's how it kills it. I feel sorry for him because it's probably a slow death, but that's nature, and we don't control nature. We just try and work with it.
Exactly. Work with it rather than trying to control it, because you'll never control it.
Yeah. And that's why organics is the go, because you have a lot of already functioning microbes and a good soil food web. So it should be in check. So when you do get problems like that, things come in and they can take care of themselves. They're not going to just come to a virgin plate. Like if you're putting out a bacteria strain on a Petri dish and it's all sterilized, it's just going to bang spread. Like E. coli can spread in 48 hours in the right conditions and be enough to cover the Earth's surface given the right conditions. So microbes, they just take off in the right areas. So with the right ones and the right counts, yeah, it takes care of itself. It's called good soil health or good substrate health. Thanks for your question, Emily. Any other questions? This bud's already hit hot fire. It says his bud tastes like orange lifesavers. That's I crossed Tree Spirit and Pink Death Bubba number 2, which is my keeper, and I created Fruit Tingles, and it tastes like the Australian Fruit Tingles lollies, and it's dead set the same. I know there's an overseas strain called it, but it doesn't taste like this Fino. And if you like Fruit Tingles lifesavers, or like I grew up on them, specifically the pink one, I reckon when I used to smell the buds and rub them when they're growing, I could my mouth like watered, and I've never had that from buds before. It's so elevated.
Yeah, it is. That's just weird because at the moment I'm smoking some Mandarin Sunset Cross Skunk number 1, and I'm smoking something that tastes like Fruit Tingles. That's got a Mandarin aftertaste. So yeah, it's very popular. It's one of the alpha pinene, I think it is.
Awesome. Yes.
Yeah, man, it's lovely. I like it. It's the only one that actually makes me feel good.
Yes. And we all need something that agrees with our bodies. Because just as it agrees with me, doesn't mean it agrees with you. Because remember, caffeine doesn't agree with me. So you've all got to work out what you find works with you and then go on that. How I achieved them was when I went to Canada, I went and spent many thousands at many dispensaries and just bought shitloads of strains. And then I circled down on a few, kept the labels of those ones, and then went back to them, kept them. I thought, wow, I'm keep going back to this Death Bubba and Island Pink and all these other and these rad ones. So that's how I worked out what I know agrees with my body.
Yeah, sure. When you guys get something that you find that works, have a look at the terpene profile of it, and then look at what the dominant terpenes are, and then you know which will work better for you. Once you know the terpenes that work for you, find a product with higher levels of those terpenes. There are lots of different choices.
And here's a great point to bring up. My pain specialist was asking me questions about. He had one of his clients the other day. He had a question for me, and the question was that one of his patients is on CBD and she's not getting the same effect as she was previously. And he asked me why. And the answer to that is because they changed the secondary metabolite profile. So this grower would have got bugs, for instance, and then that changed the plant to put out the different secondary metabolites, which has led to change the outcome of the terpenes and the cannabinoids that agrees with her body. So what they can do is they can get the test result sheet of this from the sample place of the last 2 batches. So you can see how they differed in cannabinoid and terpene profiles. See what's working, and it's those terpenes that was actually giving her more benefit. It probably wasn't the cannabinoids because the cannabinoid profile didn't change that much. So that's something that's amazing that comes out of cannabis too.
Well, that is one thing that we noticed many years ago, that when you had a problem with aphids in the room, the profile of the plant would change. Like the plant would create a biodefendant as a terpene to get rid of those particular bugs, and that's where you end up with that skunky sort of smell. But you change the insects in the environment where the plant is, and the profile of the plant will change accordingly, because some of the more potent terpenes that react on humans psychoactively are really powerful biodefendants that come from the plant.
That's right. That your genotype plus the environment equals your phenotype. So that's what changed. So they didn't change the genotype. That's because I've been able to get 3 different profiles out of Pink Death Bubba number 2. And that's because I changed the secondary metabolite profile. It's cool. It's this magical plant that we have. It's so great to muck around with and work with it. All right. So any This is
Yeah, pinene's good. Alpha pinene, also good. When you find it in combination with myrcene, linalool, limonene, and things like that, you get a very powerful medicine.
yep. Yes, it's very good. Oh, is your soil high in iron, or is the orange clay in their hook, or am I seeing things? Usually that orange soil is high in iron. It might have a higher pH too. It might be lacking in some micronutrients. Yeah, you just have to do a test. But it's generally, it is clayey, so it does have higher potassium and magnesium, and the cations there would be higher because they've been able to be bond from the isomorphic substitution in the clay particles.
Yeah, South Australian soil is very high in minerals, so yeah, that's why we'll get such good weed without doing hardly anything to it, because the plant's going to take everything, 98% of what it needs from the environment anyway.
Yep, it's 90. That's right. 95% comes from three elements: your carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. And then it goes nitrogen down 1.5%. I should try. I'm going to wrap up soon. Yeah, I'll see if I can.
Yeah, you'll have a chart for. You've got a chart for that, of course you have.
Yeah.
Show us.
It goes. And then the coolest thing is nitrogen's 1.5%. Hang on. No, I'll just find it. I'll just find it fast. So I'm not trying to talk and stuff at the same time. Plant science. CHNO. Here it is. Oh, that's the old one. I'll show you the old one and then the new one, just to show you how technology changes. There you go. I'll do that. Now I'll go into where's the new one? Into soil fertility and fertilizer course. I was going to show you the actual makeup. I'm taking too long. All right, I'll just go and show this one and just talk about that one. I'm not organized as much as I thought. Entire screen. Which one is it? It's this one. So there's been an updated version for this. I've got one just showing how technology changes with different testers. There's to testing. We were talking about testing these things. It's called an X-ray fluoroscometer. It's $29,000. I can get one for $18,000. I really want one. All you do is you point it at the soil, you press the bloody button, and it reads out this. It is so rad. No testing, no
awesomeness,
stoking, no putting stuff over, like no waiting for reactions, no sterility, no all this sort of stuff that you had to normally do to check elements. It's you can get your ions and elements tested just like that. But
man, that would make you get the perfect crop every time with that sort of information, wouldn't it?
That's what, yeah, precision agriculture. That's what I'm doing with my testing. There's a thing called crop logging, which it tells you how to log all these elements in your chart for when you're going to do the crop, and I'll show that next week because we've probably already talked. I've already talked too much this week. But this is to explain this chart here. It's so 96. This says 96% of your things come with three elements: hydrogen, carbon, and oxygen. And hydrogen is the most made up with the most abundant in your plant tissue. Then you got your macros, beneath it. So 1.5% is nitrogen, then 1% potassium, 0.5% calcium, magnesium goes down. Then it goes to your micros, and then this is so low that they do it in ppm. So it's 1, and then it goes chlorine, iron, right down to molybdenum, which is 0.1. So it's 1 ppm in a million. So that's how little you need, and that's so important because if you haven't got that in your soil, like they didn't in Australia, actually we've got a very big shortage of it.
We have
problems. So that's where you'll go and add molybdate, and that's the actually. I'll just show you another chart.
Yeah, Skidspitz has a good question there too. You've got a chart that can answer that one for him.
All right, I'll just get back to it.
Sure. Yeah. No, that's good. I'm multitasking.
Thank you for mentioning that.
Oh, you're right, mate. I'm happy to help out.
If my soil is over 7 pH, is my P and K uptake going to suffer? So is my phosphorus and potassium uptake going to suffer if my soil's over 7? The answer is
show the nutrient chart. No, it's not going to suffer.
I'm going to show. I'm going to back up some words. But the answer is
show
no,
the
it's
chart,
not going to suffer. Which one do I want?
The visual aid that shows people that nutrient uptake at a certain pH range.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting to.
Yeah, that's what I was alluding to.
This is the
visually that makes it easier for people to understand it.
This is the elemental form and ion form that the plant requires. So you can just go and give nitrogen, but there is 50 different types of nitrogen. It only requires 2 forms, nitrate and ammonium. So you can have all of it, like it's 2 to 5% of your soil is nitrate and ammonium. So 95% of it doesn't have that. So it needs to put all the ones that you require. So molybdate is the molybdenum that we were just talking about before. It's only one form you can require. So it's got to be broken down into that before the plant can accept it. These are the only things that the plant accepts. Out of this form, it'll tell it to fuck off. Like ferric. If you've got an Fe2 plus 3, that's ferric, and it won't accept it. It's got to be broken down by iron-reducing bacteria. I'm not going to... What was it getting to? The pH chart. There it is. Here you go, mate. So if you've got... this one's a little bit... Can't see it that well. But you're going to have to trust me. This one's phosphorus. So here is phosphorus. So if you've got your soil at 7 here, look at that. It's right in the middle of phosphorus. So you can go right up to 7.5, and that's when it's going to be scarce, and then right up to 8, whereas it's going to be made unavailable. And down to 6, it's going to be made unavailable, and maybe 6.2 or 3, it's going to become scarce and harder to get. That's the answer to that question, Skizbits. Thank you for your question, mate. I like all questions like that. I can just get rid of them.
Yeah, good question, Jen.
Thanks, Dr. Nexus, for bringing that to my attention. I would have missed it. Just kept on crapping on about the other soil stuff. I love soil stuff.
Well, see, I got the advantage of having multiple screens. So I've got you on this screen, I've got me on another screen, and I've got chat on another screen. So.
Wow. What a good bloke you are.
Oh, it's fun. It's fun. I've been teaching Zoom classes all week, so.
Everything by island trial. I let nature take care of it 90% of the time. Yep. Awesome. Thanks. Got veg newts, flowers. All right. Looks like we're out. He's got veg newts, flower newts, and worm castings. So he got fire. Try not to get any veg newts and flower newts, mate. Maybe we can another time ask me about some organic inputs that you can use to substitute for your store-boughts, because it works amazingly well. They have the same thing. If anything, they're stronger and they're a shitload cheaper. The only reason why you're told not to do it is because your store owner will be out of business and the manufacturers will be out of business. But you can go and use many good substitutes. Alfalfa meal, neem meal is what I use for my nitrogen. And if I've got hard nitrogen problems, I might go and add some ammonium sulfate, because that's directly released and it's water soluble with a good density, so it can be readily absorbed and taken up to the plant's roots. Anyway, that'll do. I've gone.
Yeah, compost teas are great too as an additive.
Compost
They're all
tea,
sorts of. Yeah, man. Like, watch some of Stony Baker's older videos on how he brews up a compost tea out of things like kale and spinach and things like that. And he just literally boils the crap out of it for a couple of days in water, and he ends up with a tea that he feeds his plants that makes things go boom, because he's feeding the microbes, giving the microbes a party of nutrients and sugars. Right. They're all natural, absolutely natural. Yeah.
That's how I feed my girls. They get tea. And
my daughter kept trying to feed me kale, and I thought, man, I've got to find a better use for this. So I made a kale tea and fed my plants. I can't stand the shit. Kale's awful. She's trying to get me healthy. Go figure.
One thing that's not being brought up about teas very often is about brewing fungus. And you'll put all these constituents in and think you're going to brew fungi. You can't. You just can't in teas. That's what they do. Once you put a fungal spore in the water, its water activity level goes up above its 65% that it requires. Like in aspergillus and things, they realize 60%, some of them. So once it goes above 65, it'll sprout and germinate. Then it's looking for something to hold on to, put out its hyphae, and it can't do that, so it'll die. So you can't put them in the tea. So what I do with mine, when I inoculate, I'll put in my fungal spores maybe 30 minutes before I'm going to go and feed. And that way I'm guaranteed that the fungal spores are going to germinate and they're going to do what they're supposed to do, where the teas should only be used for brewing up microbes and getting rid of pathogens. Because if you grab your tea, like I use leachate, which comes from vermicastings, and that can harbour anaerobic activity at the bottom because it'll sit dormant. And I've proved this to be true. And so by bubbling it for more than 24 hours, you're telling those anaerobic spores to die and to go back into their spore form. And most of them will form spores again. So they'll sit dormant until the right conditions prevail. So that's why good soil health has a mixture of bad and good. I'm off track. That'll do.
Yeah, it's all good, mate. It's all good. But yeah, look after the microbes, guys, and they'll look after the plant for you.
Yes. What I do, actually, here's a quick little tip on the feeds. I'll make up a brew with my organic inputs and amendments, and that will be equal. So I'll do a nutrient count, and with an NPK, CalMag, sulfur count, like we were going before, with your macros, and just add up the numbers to make sure they're getting the right things from what the deficiencies are at the right time from me reading the leaves. And I'll brew it. I'll put them into a brew for 40 to 48 hours, and that will be at 500 ppm will be the solution amount. And then I'll add about 300 to 350 ppm of leachate, which is my live bacteria and fungal spores, etc., that I get from my vermicastings. That adds up to about 850. I'll put my little sloop of unsulfured molasses in, and like a miniature tiny bit, fingernail in, and that will get it to 850. And then when I'll go to feed them, it'll generally be about 1100, 1200 ppm. If it does go up to 1500 ppm, I'll dilute it, because you don't want to have sodic conditions, saline conditions, where there's too high, saline's a word, too much salts. When the salts levels get too high, your plants can't uptake anything, and that's just, it locks out of everything. So you can't have that. So by feeding it too much, so you have to really dilute your teas if they're too strong. Over.
Yeah, Main Green Grower 420. Cheers, mate.
Hey, Main Green. Have you got
How's everyone doing?
You haven't seen any pics? Pink Death Bubba. Woo, good strain.
Yeah, mate, you got 22 viewers. Wow.
All right. We're just talking about, maybe we can have an organics where next week you can ask me more questions about organics, and I can go into more detail about the different types of microbes. And because the nitrogen fixing bacteria, a lot of them will mineralize. They will not mineralize it, so they'll immobilize it. So they'll take inside the nitrogen bacteria, the elements that they'll take. So they'll have to be broken down. So that's a bit of not a myth, but an interesting fact once understanding the microbes and what they actually do for you, how to get them to work for you. Hey, Choofy. Just missed it. We're just about to bail, Choofy. You missed out, mate. Save your questions for next week. Be back at the same time next week, though.
Yeah, well, I'll be back as well if you want.
Yep. Dr. Nexus will be in here helping out with the questions too from his good knowledge pool. So yeah. Thanks, everybody.
All the old tricks. Yeah, like Aussie Auto's particularly got a good one where he uses a cold air stone in his teas, and that's a good thing. You know, most of the teas I've seen, like in the home, of course, like Afghanistan, when they're making up a feed for their plants, like they're using like a 55-gallon barrel that's half full of goat shit, and it's just topped off with water, but it's composted goat shit. And they're just giving every plant a bucket full of water every day, and they just keep topping it up with water. And that's the only nutrients that the plants get, apart from all the minerals in the soil.
Yep.
So the nastier the soil you've got, just feed it goat shit, mate. You just get great big trees of kush. if you have the right genetics.
Yep. High organic matter and high amounts of living soil, living microbes is the go. You need the organic matter to chelate and grab onto all your vitamins and minerals, and then you need the microbes to break it all down to make it available. So those two things is the winning amount.
Yeah, we should do a series on live soil organics. Like, what is LSO? What is the process? You know, how do you set it up, and so forth. What do you think?
Yeah, it's hard to do stuff like that because you've got to write slides.
It's a lot of work. I know, I get it. But from slides that you've already got, we could probably come up with something on the fly, I would think.
They're good to, I feel bad for copyright reasons for some of them because they've from my universities, they put a lot of work into some of them. But yeah, I wouldn't feel comfortable making money off them with my slides. They'd have to immediately be rewritten so that it wasn't like a copyright. We're still live.
Sure. Well, we could make a new chart. I'm completely aware. We could make a new chart to illustrate, things like pH uptake, nutrient uptake at different pH levels, and things like that.
Yeah.
You could make new charts. It's not hard. You got Office or something like that, haven't you?
I'm disabled in my hands. Everybody probably doesn't know. But,
I get that. I currently can't feel my left thumb, so I totally understand that. I'm like a T-Rex, so I can use my arm from my elbow to my hand, but I can't feel my thumb, which is kind of weird. So, yeah, having a bit of a struggle at the moment, guys.
Good. We're both unhealthy, but we're trying to get out the good word in cannabis. That's the thing. Yeah.
Oh, mate, I've got politicians talking, and I've got medical companies talking, and I've got people communicating. They're getting feedback from the community, like they understand what's going on, and changes are coming. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. All right, guys. Well, I would like to say, everybody, thank you for turning up and asking questions. It was great to get some questions. I like the organic stuff because that's the future. And this is the style that I've been getting into for many years. And so any questions around that area, I'm sure I could really help you out and get some clear thoughts in your head. So save some up and we'll go through some more next week.
Yeah. Well,
anything to say to everybody?
Yeah, just a final thought, that the future is in your past, You can learn from the old ways, the organic ways. That's the only way forward. Because the NPK cycle's got to be broken.
Well said, mate. And to back that up, there's a new thing called I learnt in nanotechnology in agriculture, and there's the NPK is actually old-fashioned now because there's a new this seed soak and foliar spray that we do with nanoparticles. It brings out new high yields with no NPK fertilizers done. And it's so beneficial. And this is that's an area that I'm getting into that it's very new. It's nanotechnology in agriculture. So there's different things that could be implemented, and that's the way that we're going to do probably the 2050s. And from then on, people will be not using NPK fertilizers anymore. They'll be using soil amendments, and they'll be using precision agriculture with crop logging, and they'll be doing it this way, because it's the only way to really get successful and not hurt the environment at the same time, because our environment suffers so much from our eutrophication and adding too much NPKs, and it kills off all the things too. So we need to get more in check and realize how Earth survived without us. So the last 100 years hasn't been good.
No, the Industrial Revolution has been very nasty for the soil, particularly the petrochemical industry. Because that's where all their waste ends up, in the farms, and that's not on. We've got to change it, guys.
Yes, well said. So with that, I'm going to say thanks, everybody. Monty, too late, mate. Nice to see you, though.
G'day, brother.
Everybody, Lene, everybody for rocking up and chatting. And your great questions. Save your good ones for next week. And, we'll strap into the organics and get everything proper for you. Get the secondary metabolites cranking for you, better plant health, better soil health, better future. Woohoo! Thanks, everybody.
Organic's the way forward, guys.
Happy growing, happy breeding to you, and good health.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.